Your fever is high and the pressure to log in at work is too. But when you finally decide to take care of you, there's Instacart. Just because that one perfect coworker of yours is attending all meetings, camera on while she's sneezing, coughing, and aching, doesn't mean you have to do the same. Take it from us. Trying to stay on top of things will only get you further behind. Instead, get everything from tissues and teas to cough suppressants and comforting soups delivered through Instacart in as fast as 30 minutes. If anyone needs anything, they can just redirect their questions to that one perfect coworker of yours.
You've discovered your link to GoPowercat.com's Powercat Podcast. Now, here's your host, GoPowercat.com publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
I had a friend tell me the other day that he was really mad when Kansas State hired Chris Klieman. Really upset. He thought K-State Athletics Director Gene Taylor just went out and hired his buddy, took the easy way out in the hiring process. I know this guy, I'll hire him. In reality, in hindsight, Gene Taylor took the hard way. There was going to be pushback if he hired Chris Klieman, his coach at North Dakota State, and a coach that had never been a head coach above an FCS program. Chris Klieman won games with great ease at the powerhouse program of his classification. How would that translate to Kansas State? How would that play in Manhattan? Gene Taylor thought, this is my guy. He knows what he's doing. It wasn't a gimmick. He built upon something great. And despite the pushback that I thought would discourage Taylor from making the hire, he went ahead and chose Chris Klieman as Kansas State's football coach. Now, it's only one season in, but nobody really expected Chris Klieman to go 8-5. Certainly not in the national media, certainly not in the Big 12 media that picked him to finish around the bottom of the Big 12 standings. No, Chris Klieman was one of four new coaches and probably one that would fail earlier than the others. Well, after one season, that was proven wrong. Klieman went 5-4 in the Big 12. He built upon a final season from Bill Snyder that fell short of expectations and then exceeded expectations. Time will tell if Chris Klieman really is the right guy. But early indications are that he is the perfect fit for Kansas State. For everything that is different about him from Bill Snyder, there's something similar. It's kind of weird. They're really different people. But they might go about putting the ingredients in the bowl in a different style, but they want to come up with the same cake once it comes out of the oven. The teams look an awful lot alike. You're going to be disciplined. You're going to be physical. You're going to run the ball at opponents. You're going to control the clock. You're going to limit your penalties and mistakes, and you're going to make big plays in special teams. Chris Klieman seems to be the perfect guy to follow Bill Snyder, not because Gene Taylor knew who he was, but because his brand of football, his style of football, meshed so well with the players he inherited. We are less than a week now away from kickoff of 2020. The pandemic season, the season unlike any one we've ever seen in college football. I don't know how far we're going to get into the season, but I know this, that the players at Kansas State are fortunate to have Chris Klieman as their coach. He's put together a marvelous staff, and, not surprisingly, as these Wildcats head into their season, they again are picked near the bottom of the conference by the same media who Bill Snyder proved wrong time and time again. Now they're doing the same thing to Chris Klieman. They always judge Kansas State football by the losses, not the gains. Arkansas State, 2:30 p.m. on Saturday at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. That will start Chris Klieman's second season. Welcome to the GoPowercat.com Powercat Sources Podcast, a podcast in which we talk to the people that are our sources for so much of the information you love at GoPowercat. We go right to the source, and in this case, we start off this brand new season of the Sources Podcast with Chris Klieman, Kansas State head football coach. It seems like you're in like this never-ending cycle of trying to be healthy, not healthy, and now we got to get healthy, and you know what I mean? And maybe that's what this whole year will be, and that's just the reality we're facing.
The people that I've talked to, that's what it is. Whether it's in college football to the NFL. Now the NFL is doing a better job simply because they're testing every day and they don't have 20,000 students on campus. But that's the whole thing. Try to protect yourself today and get to tomorrow.
In some ways, is it just kind of unavoidable for the kids? I mean, they've got to go to class.
Absolutely.
They got to be around a roommate that may not be in the program, or you can't bolster yourself against everyone.
No, and anymore. Early on, I think all of us could have gotten frustrated when kids were somehow acquiring the virus. Now, boy, I mean, any of us. I mean, you could get it tomorrow. I could get it tomorrow. Any of us could at any time. And some of it, kids are like, Coach, I don't know how the heck I even got it. I'm not around anybody. I'm masked up. I don't know. And so that's the unfortunate thing.
Yeah, well, I guess I'd kind of question the accuracy of the test, to be honest, which is scary in itself, that sometimes the test can be a lot of false positives, and good news is you don't have it. You just think you do, which is terrifying.
Yeah, but that's the NFL is dealing with that too. They had all these false positives, and my fear right now is more for our staff that have children going to classes, right. And my kid going to practice, and Tui's kid going to practice, Steve's kid's going to practice. I mean, you don't know what's going on at these practices or schools, or where these kids are going to fast food afterwards. I mean, it's just it's nerve-wracking to think. I try to avoid my junior in high school, with the exception of having a mask on and visiting with him about how his day went and how practice was.
That's awful.
Isn't it terrible?
That's awful.
And I went to the scrimmage when did Manhattan scrimmage? I can't remember. One day last week they scrimmaged, and I felt bad. I don't know who it was. Some guy twice had to come down and say, people, please, by Riley County order, we're going to have to shut this thing down. Please put your mask on. And I'm like, hey, buddy, I know how you feel. I didn't say anything. I'm like, boy, that's everybody's, whether you're in school or at practice or anywhere else.
Yeah. We just got off to a bad start with masks, and some people just refuse to change their way. And okay.
Yep.
I have to calculate that into everything I do.
Yep.
Let's talk a little football or something.
That'd be better. I'd rather talk about that.
I know it's just crappy. I'm so tired of this, because it's not like you and I are going to sit here and talk about it for 30 minutes and we just solved it. So
yeah, no kidding. Yeah, exactly right. It's not going away.
Yep. You finally have a kickoff time in television that has to feel more tangible now, doesn't it?
It definitely does. We were hoping for it early this week so that we could kind of prepare our week around the 2:30 start, and on Saturday we'll do kind of a mock game up here, because I want to see the new scoreboards. I want to see some of the bells and whistles that we have here. I want Skylar to see those things to get comfortable, and our receivers, and kind of the fact of, guys, this is what's going to be the distraction, is all the new things we have here, and not necessarily a crowd.
Yeah, it's going to be such a strange environment. I think you'll now get a better appreciation what football was like when I was in school.
Boy, I hope it doesn't stay like this for very long then.
No. It is strange. It does take away home field advantages, which Kansas State has had a fairly substantial one because of the crowd. It just kind of is the message, just continue to focus between these lines. It doesn't matter if you're home or away.
Yeah, you still have to execute. Home or away, you got to execute. And, we'll all get an understanding of what it's going to be like on September 12th, because you really can't emulate it at practice. We're going to try to have a mock game on Saturday. That'll be great. But then we're really going to come out of that tunnel on the 12th, and guys are going to go, holy cow, okay. Now it's a football game. Okay, we've seen what's around, how the stadium looks. We've seen the video boards and those things. Now let's go execute and play. And it does make it probably easier for everybody to go on the road this year with respects to the stadium and the environment. Maybe it's not from a hotel and social distancing at meals and those things, but I think it's kind of leveled some of the playing field as far as you don't have that great home field advantage right now.
Last time we spoke with you, as the media spoke with you, Schuyler's clearly the number one, but there's some competition back there for playing time because rarely does a program get through the year with a healthy quarterback. What has it changed about the battle for number two or playing time behind Schuyler?
It's ongoing. There's some things I really like with Nick Ost. Nick's really kind of the guy right now because of experience. I know that Will Howard is gaining ground on him really quickly, which is great. I think it helps Nick. I know it helps Schuyler, and Will's learning from both of them. They just have had the experience in our system. But I'm pleased with the progress those guys are making. I'm pleased with where Jaron Lewis is at. He's light years better than he was. And then we have some younger kids that are in our program that we're just learning about. But we're better right now at the quarterback position than we were last year for sure.
Is Will Howard one of those guys? I think Coach Tui mentioned a throw that once in a while in practice you go, oh, yeah, that's a quarterback. That's what a quarterback does.
Yeah, when you can take it on one hash and throw an out route on a line to the opposite outside the numbers, and people are like, wow, that was a big-time throw. Again, against a pass rush, against a good corner with a really talented wide receiver. I mean, he just looks comfortable back there. Now, have we gone live with him and he's had all the blitzes and stuff come at him where he can get hit and we're not staying off him? No. We've had him play a few snaps live and he looks good out there. But until you really get into that fire where it's live blitzes and you can get hit from all different angles and stuff, it's always going to be a work in progress for a young player, but I'm pleased with where he is at through, about 16, 17 practices now.
Has it been enough practices? I mean, you lost your spring. You lost your spring. I don't even know how you make up for that.
Not even close. The kids would tell you they're tired of practicing, and I would tell you the same thing, simply because you're right. We missed everything in the spring, so we didn't have an evaluation going into the summer. These kids always do a great job of captain's practices in the summer. Those were taken away from us. Then we had July 24th where we were able to walk through some things in T-shirts and shorts just to kind of show what we missed in the spring. So we've been doing this since July 24th in some respect in a team setting. We've had some days off here and there for a variety of reasons, but no, not near enough practice as far as to really replicate game speed. And we haven't had enough live blocking. We haven't had enough live tackling. We've done it a couple of times, not for very long, because you're also worried. We did it the one time and we didn't know for sure when we were going to even have a game yet. And that made me nervous a little bit because you don't want to lose somebody when you don't know when you're playing. Then we were able to have one live tackling maybe about a week ago, but there was some guys out for injuries and some other reasons, so we didn't have as much as we liked. And that's the thing that always makes you nervous going into a first game is when you haven't tackled live and you haven't done a ton of live blocking.
Let alone maybe they'll be bad at tackling, but I guess there's a possibility that technique could break down, and now you're looking at injuries. It just seems like we're in a kind of a catch-22 here. You don't want to wear them out, but you also need to get them aware of live fire and where their feet need to be and their hips and all that.
Yeah, and some positions are better equipped than others. Some are in better shape than others. Some we have more bodies than others. I mean, this was a year that we weren't locked into 110. So we were able to bring in a few more players, and we would bring a few more players in that we thought fit our program, but we ended up having more linebackers than we've ever had. So that position's probably not taxed very much because there's so many guys where, the wide receiver and maybe offensive line, we don't have as many guys. So those guys are taxed a little bit more when you say, hey, let's get a group of young guys. Let's get a group of threes going to just run our plays and see how we're doing as far as developing and learning. And linebackers are chomping at the bit because we've got 4, 5, 6 deep there, but we can't do it at other positions. So it's a fine line of making sure that the guys are getting the reps, but also staying as fresh as you can too.
And how precarious is it for a position like receiver or line that if you get a few injuries and a few positive tests, you're in big trouble all of a sudden?
Yeah, you really are. And that's the, I don't know if that's an answer nobody really has. You know, we can say, well, we can play some running backs out there and we can flex some tight ends out, or you can move some corners over, or vice versa. You could be down corners and move wide receivers over to corner and running backs to linebacker. Those are great thoughts. But, boy, you better be really simple, because how many things are those kids going to be able to pick up in a week? And I think everybody's well aware that those situations could happen this year where you get hit at a certain position where either there has to be a postponement, which nobody wants, but we have to make sure that everybody's safe, or you're going to have to move some guys around and hopefully they can understand a small package in a 3 or 4 day time.
Do you have any positions on the field that, or maybe you're a coach and you're never happy with anything, but you look at it and go, maybe we're a little farther along than I thought, given the circumstances under which we're playing right now?
No, I would say we don't, for a lot of reasons. One, you're a day away from what you think is a really loaded position or deep position to being a really thin position. So it's kind of a catch-22. Boy, we're really good here, and then 2 days later you could have a hamstring, something else, a shoulder, and 2 COVID. So you just say, boy, you just each day. That's why each day we're continuing to go out and evaluate and continuing to challenge the young guys to say, I can't tell you when your opportunity is going to be, but you have to be ready. And all these meetings and all these walkthroughs and all these extra practice reps that you're getting and you're thinking, I'm never going to play. I'm telling you, you probably are going to play. And you don't have to worry about running down on one kickoff for one game and thinking, oh, crap, I've got 3 games left and I just wasted a game. Because this year, it doesn't matter. And we're going to try to keep getting freshmen ready all year long. And maybe there'll be 2 or 3 plays per 6 or 7 games. Maybe there'll be more, but that's what we're trying to press upon those guys is we need you ready because we're going to play you, and you don't have to worry about losing a year of eligibility.
Yeah, was that ruling just absolutely essential? Number one, if it is a short season, no harm, no foul. We're going to redo. But if you do go the 10 games and you do have attrition and you do have COVID positives, that all the guys can be counted on. They're all in the mix, and, hey, guys, this isn't going to affect you. It was almost like either you play a lot or a little, this rule had to be passed.
It had to be passed, or you were going to have to try to go out and try to get another 35 walk-ons on day one to try to get your roster as high as you could because you know you're going to get hit with it somewhere. No, I'm excited about it for this year. Obviously, there's going to be some challenges moving forward from a roster management standpoint that people ask me about all the time. Have you talked to the seniors? Have you talked to this group? I said, not at all. We're just trying to get through today and get ourselves ready for the 12th. The time when we talk to those seniors will come, but right now we don't have time to breathe because we have to make sure that we're getting the next guy ready and the next guy up just in case people go down for whatever reason.
The Powercat Podcast will be right back.
Getting the crew together isn't as easy as it used to be. We get it. Life comes at you fast. But trust us, your pals are desperate for a good hang. And when they hear you stock the party with drinks from Drizzly, they'll be banging down your door. Let Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery, take care of the supplies. All you need is an excuse. It doesn't even have to be a good one. It's your dog's birthday. The loquats are finally ripe. Whatever. With Drizzly, you can compare prices on a massive selection of beer, wine, and spirits and get them delivered straight to your door, which means you can entice the crew to leave their houses without ever leaving yours. Whatever the occasion, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations. Picture this nightmare scenario. You're hosting friends for the big game. It's neck and neck in the fourth quarter, and suddenly you realize you're out of drinks. You start to sweat. Your friends start to turn on you. You're forced to go on a last-second drink run and end up missing the game-winning touchdown while in line. Terrifying, isn't it? Luckily, you can avoid the drama with Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can shop a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits, then get them delivered right to your watch party. Compare prices across multiple stores in your area, find the best deals on game day drinks, and get back to armchair quarterbacking from, you guessed it, your armchair. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations.
We now send it back to the Powercat podcast.
Let's turn our attention now to some positions. Offensive line, if you could pick a year not to have a spring session, this wouldn't be it. I mean, rebuilding your offensive line from scratch without spring football seems next to impossible for me as an outsider. How difficult has it been?
Been really difficult, and we've had some guys down with minor injuries, but they're down 2 to 4 practices. And if that happens, an offensive line always has to play as one. You're 5, you're 6, you're 7, you're 8, you're 9, whatever. And we're going to play up to 9 guys probably. But we haven't had them all together. And they haven't had that camaraderie from the spring to know what they're going to work on in the summer, as well as having that video valuable to those guys in the spring to see themselves blocking Drew Wiley or Wyatt Hubert or somebody that they're saying, okay, that's the technique I need to work on. These kids are not having any of that video available to them. So for us to miss all the spring, all the summer, and not only the practice time, but in reality, the development time with Coach Dawson and his staff, that was such valuable time, whether it was getting our bodies stronger, more flexible, more fluid, more athletic. They were all over the country for so long and I know everybody was in the same boat on this, but it's a real challenge this year, and we're 16, 17 practices like we talked in it, and we could use another 25 more just with that group.
Incredible. A receiver looks like a spot where you potentially could be a little more dynamic if you stay healthy. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with where we are at receiver as far as everybody a year stronger, a year more experienced, a year with Skyler, even though we've been apart, but a year more with Skyler as far as rapport and understanding what he's looking for, and easier conversations as far as, hey, against this coverage, Skyler will say, hey, I want you to break it out, or I want you to cut that route down a yard, or whatever, maybe, or cut your split. The guys just understand each other so much better. So I really like the competition. The guys have made each other better through the competition. They all have different skill sets. They're all talented. And knock on wood, we can keep them all healthy so that we have the ability to use a variety of guys, because even last year we thought we were pretty good there and pretty deep there, and then pretty soon all of a sudden we're down 4 or 5 again.
Yeah, it's crazy. Running back, you inherited as bad a situation as one could probably imagine last year with no scholarship guys. And honestly, the 2 grad transfers you picked up, I'm not sure you could have hoped for much more out of that situation. And here you are again, kind of having to reinvent that running back position in year 2. Where are we at with that? Is that group kind of solidifying itself maybe into a rotation that you'll be comfortable with like you were last year?
Yeah, we're getting better there. We're getting more confident. We're still going to be more by committee. I don't see us having a guy that's going to carry it 25 or 30 times. That's didn't happen with Mess and I at North Dakota State. Didn't happen our first year here. And I like a number of backs that we have. And it really starts with Harry and Tyler, Trotter and Burns. Those 2 guys been in the system, older guys, know how we want to practice, know what we expect, because they have a lot of younger guys underneath them that they they need to mentor and they need to groom, some talented guys underneath them. And so we'll see how it plays out. We have a lot of those guys that are going to see, a couple of true freshmen are going to see some time. A couple of guys that are redshirt freshmen that played a little bit are going to see some time. But early on, I think we really need to be able to ride Harry and we need to be able to ride Tyler until those guys are ready to play from the protection standpoint and all the things that we're doing offensively.
Deuce Vaughn looks like a guy to me that, as an offensive coach, Mess would be like, how can I use this toy? I mean, he's kind of a unique thing that you got going there with him. And I'm looking forward to seeing him, to be honest.
Yeah, really fluid runner, just natural with the ball in his hands, can catch the ball, understands the game pretty well. Excited about, his future. The other one is Keon Mosey from Kansas City. Boy, he's done some special things as of late. And another kid that's just been nicked up a little bit with some soft tissue things. Nothing but a day here and there that we just have to keep him ready for a long haul of a season. So that's another reason why, we're going to need to play a decent amount of backs to make sure that we can keep everybody healthy and everybody in a rotation and everybody getting some touches.
Defensively, that D tackle spot, how far along are you with that? Your losses there were notable, and you got to have guys step up right now.
Yeah, I'm confident in Drew Wiley, and I'm confident in Eli Huggins, and then it's going to be kind of by committee. But so appreciate those two guys. Drew has taken on an unbelievable leadership role for us, mentoring some of the younger players and some of the junior college kids that are coming in. But those two guys are going to be a mainstay for us. We need to keep those guys healthy, Drew and Eli, and then it'll be a lot of different bodies rolling through there to see who can help us for whether it's 15 plays or 30 plays. But we're trying an awful lot of bodies in there.
Wyatt Hubert, I don't know if you know this, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's a pretty talented guy.
the other guy, whoever it is at the other end, Khalid Duke or whomever, how much can they benefit from the fact that everyone's going to have their eye on Wyatt Hubert?
Yeah, I think everybody will benefit. Even the D tackles will benefit as well. But Bronson Massey is healthy this year.
Good.
Last year we had to shelve him late in the season because of a hip injury. He fixed that, and he feels good. You can see he's much more explosive. But between Bronson and between Khalid Duke, Spencer Trussell's doing a nice job. There's a number of guys that we're looking at there to give us some snaps so that we don't end up having to play Wyatt more snaps than we need to. I mean, he needs to be as fresh in the fourth quarter as he is in the first quarter, but make no mistake, everybody that we play against is going to know where he's at all times.
And I'm really excited to see the linebackers just because I want to see Justin Hughes play. I mean, what happened last year was just heartbreaking with him, and having him out there with Elijah, that story's really cool. Plus, I think they're both eligible for AARP now, so that's nice. Yeah. But they're going to be a really dynamic pair potentially, aren't they?
They are. I think it really helps that we have Daniel Green and Cody Fletcher as well. And I'm excited for Justin, just like I was excited for Eli. And you guys knew more about Eli's situation than I did coming into last year. And as I looked at Eli, and I think he was coming off of a knee injury from 2018, if I'm correct. Yeah. He got better and better as 2019 went. And at the end of the season, he was as good a football player, as good a linebacker as I'd seen play in our system. Well, Justin's going to be potentially the same way. It's going to take him a little bit to get his body back and to be as fluid and running and stuff as he would like to be as to what he was in 2018. So we have to do a great job with Daniel Green, with Cody Fletcher, of playing all four of those guys to keep them fresh and to keep them lasting if we're fortunate enough to play as many games as we are. But it's great to have the depth and an experience of those guys. And no question, I think everybody's excited for Justin and Eli to get a chance to play together for the first time. And it'll be fun to watch.
I'm going to make a strange comparison here that I kind of see a secondary in the modern football where you got to put five out there, kind of like an offensive line in the fact that you got to find your five. And maybe maybe this safety has to play corner a few snaps, or this guy has to be a nickelback, but you're going to pretty much put your best 5 out there with some exceptions. Some guys have to be corners. But are you getting there with who your top 5 are and what the best fits are for them in the back end?
Probably the position I am most excited about and feel we've had great growth and great competition, and a number of guys are going to play is the secondary. We have 4 corners right now that all, I think, are doing a really good job. A.J. Parker is the leader of the group, being the senior, and played a lot of football for us. He's starting to get back healthy. He had a pretty bad injury in November last year, and so he's not 100%, but he's getting closer. And Lance Robinson, I thought, came on and did some really good things. At the end of last year, Lance has improved. Keandre Thomas, transfer from Minnesota, we think will be a really good addition. He's going to play a lot of football for us. Justin Gardner's one of those guys we haven't had a bunch in my time anywhere, of a 6 foot, 2.5, 190-pound corner with great length, and a guy that is an exceptional man-to-man coverage guy. He's just learning the system, but he'll be a factor as well. We have Will Jones that we moved into the nickel spot. Ross Elder we've moved to nickel. TJ Smith is a true freshman that's going to play some nickel. All 3 of those guys are doing some really good things. Will's probably ahead just because he's played more football at that spot. Safety spot, we moved Jerron McPherson from the nickel to the free safety, and he's fit in really well. I'm excited about what J-Mac's going to do back there, and he's just an exceptional football player. It's a great leader. Wayne Jones, he's healthy. Last year he had shoulder surgery. He hurt his shoulder in the first week, and I don't think it was ever the same. He was able to get that fixed. You have Ryan Hennington and Brock Monty that everybody from K-State would say put the game on those 2 guys, because they are what K-State's all about. Mm-hmm. Both those 2 guys are going to play. I like what they're doing. We have Tyrone Lewis. That's a redshirt freshman. That's a really talented kid as well. That's going to get a chance to help us out. So we have some depth. We have some competition, and we're challenging those guys to learn more than one spot, so that we can ultimately, if we had to, put the best 5 out there. But I like where we're at. I'm
just struck by how much more depth you just discussed than a year ago at this time. I mean, it's amazing. You've had 2 recruiting classes, and your first one was kind of thrown together, honestly.
Yeah.
It's amazing how far you've come, isn't it, in terms of roster management?
Yeah, we really are excited about the younger guys that we have on the team, and we're continuing to recruit. We're continuing to do a good job. All 4 freshman offensive linemen we hit on this year, from Sam Shields to Taylor Warner to Whit Mitchum and Carver Willis. All 4 of those guys are going to be really good players. Are they going to help us this year? No. But all 4 of them are going to be really good players, and we're excited about that. If we can continue to do those type of things across the board at different positions, then we feel like we can build the culture, the sustainability to have success year after year. But we have to keep the groups together. You can't have kids transfer out. You can't lose kids for whatever reason. And so, these next 2 or 3 classes on top of that are really important. But I like where we're headed.
You mentioned this 2 or 3 classes, and it's easy to forget this. You lost your camps this summer. How much does that hurt you at Kansas State, where you want to get players in front of you to see, because maybe they're not high profile, maybe they haven't had a lot of attention, maybe there's not a lot of quality video, but you get them in camp and you get to see them?
Yeah, that's huge. I tell you, it's a reason why we have Cody Stufflebean in the program, because we saw him the year before, and we loved what we saw at camp. And off of film, we didn't know, but then he came to camp like, oh yeah, he'll fit with what we're doing. I can't tell you how many kids are not the beneficiary of that. And it's not just at Kansas State, across the landscape. There's a ton of really good Division II programs in Kansas that didn't get camps this year. And so it's going to hurt an awful lot of kids from the state of Kansas that are class of 21 that are saying, boy, I hope I get some game film out there, and I feel bad for him. My son's a 2022 at Manhattan High, and he didn't get to go into any camps this year, and I'm hoping he gets to go next year, because you have to get that exposure out for for players so that they can get around coaches and they can just play some football and do some drill work. And it's a huge thing that we missed this year.
We talked earlier about the new rule in which the season doesn't essentially count. You get a waiver even if you're underclassmen. And that's great. Next year you'll have, if you got 5 seniors that stick around, you'll have 90 scholarships in theory. After that, though, it looks like it rolls back to 85. Are you beginning to think about how to manage your scholarship numbers in case you get a bubble there where essentially your, 20 and 21 classes are like one giant class?
No, we haven't. We probably need to, Fitz, but we just haven't had the chance to get that done or even start talking about that. We know where it's at. We know what's coming down, but we just have not probably had a chance to pause because of all the things we have going on and our really difficult task of roster management for this year of trying to move guys around and make sure that we have guys in the right position. And so we know that's something that we're going to have to talk about in the near future. I think everybody at every school trying to, by the year 2022, in essence, to get that thing back down to your normal numbers, not just your normal scholarship numbers, but the amount of kids that you're allowed on your football team. How many can you bring in extra from a walk-on standpoint? Because there's a lot of walk-ons that make it. There's a ton of walk-ons that make it at Kansas State, at North Dakota State, at a lot of different programs. And I don't want it to take away from opportunities that those guys would have.
Quick thoughts on Arkansas State. I know very little about them right now.
Fast tempo offense.
Good.
Blake Anderson's a great coach, a great man. I've been on some committees with him. So they're going to be really explosive on offense. Defensively, run the same scheme as Iowa State, so kind of the 3-3 stuff. And so I wish I could tell you a lot more, but unfortunately I haven't had a chance to do what I love to do, and that's coach football. I'm dealing with a lot of other things right now. So I'm hoping to dive into them a lot more this week. But it's rest assured, it's a perennial bowl team that's going to come into Manhattan, and it's going to be a big time game for them. And we're going to have to play our best football to be successful.
Thanks to Coach Klieman for taking time to talk to me. We actually got together late last week before it became game week. Hopefully we'll be able to get players or coaches all season long. We'll see how this works out. But Chris Klieman was the perfect place to start. And, man, I got to tell you something. I really like him. I like him as a person. I also like his brand of football. I'm kind of an old school guy. Don't run and shoot me. Just shoot me if that's your offense. Don't run the spread every down in which your formula quarterback makes the same throws over and over and over again. Give me a running game. Give me a tight end. Give me a little quarterback run and also pass the ball around the field. Mix it up. Play football. Don't boil it down to some simplistic form that doesn't translate to the NFL or anywhere else. I find it boring, and I find it almost like a cheat code. Play football. That's what Chris Klieman's teams do, and hopefully that's what they will do Saturday at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. We appreciate you listening to the Sources Podcast. We'll be back next week with another one of our sources.
Powercat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.